What's up, everybody? Adam, aka CSRadical here, and we are going to take a long look at NHL 14. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, well, Adam, you haven't been posting a lot of NHL 14 stuff, especially not since it came out. Yeah, there's a reason for that. After about a month of playing it, I straight up gave it up and just put it away. 2 months later, we find out that Grand Theft Auto Online still doesn't have nearly enough content to justify playing it all the time, and Call of Duty Ghosts for me just ended up being an absolute failure. So I had to go back because most of my friends are still playing the NHL franchise, so I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go back to it. Maybe something's changed, maybe they patched a couple of things, maybe the game's a little tighter now. No, in fact, it doesn't seem like they've changed anything, and that's not surprising to me at all either. So there's a lot of things now in this game's, about 4-month life cycle that I really need to get off my chest, because there's a lot of things that make this game, quite frankly, while on paper it looks like and feels like it should be the best game they've ever made of it, there are so many things wrong with it that just turn it into an absolute joke. So we're going to cut this into pieces here. We're going to start with the most threatening, and that's going to be the gameplay. We'll move along down to the EASHL, which is my big thing, then we're straight down to Hockey Ultimate Team because that's just another big thing. We'll also take a quick look at presentation and stuff like that. And other than that, I don't play the offline mode so much, so I'm not going to comment too much on it, but I'll just simply say, because I'll say it again during the gameplay aspect, but the AI, it's so obvious the game favors them at times, so I'll get into that in a minute. First, we got to go right to the biggest thing that everybody complains about on NHL 14 when it comes to online play, and that's the glitch goals. And we know of the two biggest ones that are used constantly. That's the wrister at the top of the circle and the backhand-forehand breakaway. So let's break this off into two pieces, shall we? The wrister at the top of the circle is an absolute glitch, cheat, whatever you want to call it. It is a goal that 90% of the time will go in because, quite frankly, the goalie is not programmed to handle that specific angle, that specific type of shot. And because people use that religiously, they use it like it's a fucking crutch, it becomes something that just annoys the crap out of any player who tries to play a self-respecting game of hockey, who tries to actually play a legit game. You can also argue that one-timers can be part of that, because one-timers work really well, but they do a lot in the real NHL, so it's kind of hard not to justify that. Now, the part that pisses me off the most about the glitch shot, specifically, is that people will say, well, all you gotta do is protect that part of the ice. Well, in theory, that sounds like the right idea. However, there's a bit of an issue behind that. Because of the new skating engine with momentum, it is way too damn easy to deke around people. People can say the hitting engines work better. It doesn't for some people. Hell, for me, half the time, I have my checking stats and everything flattened out. I'll stand straight in the guy's line of fire, go to hit him, all of a sudden, oop, loose deke, and he just drifts off. Loose dekes are overpowered too. The skating engine has gotten to the point where anybody who just decides to skate circles for no fucking reason, because that's real hockey right there, skating around and around like he's fucking on a goddamn carousel on skates, yeah, it gets you through anything, doesn't it? If you did that in the real hockey game, you just see one guy just go over and just poof, and you go flying down the fucking ice. But no, that's not what happens. Instead, they get to go around you, and they will always go for that shot at the top of the circle. It's constantly there, and it needs to be fixed, and it should have been fixed a long time ago. This game is so notorious for having that one specific goal that in every game people will spam to no end because, quite frankly, they're not good enough to play a legitimate form of hockey, play some good defensive hockey, but instead they have to rely on goals that are just so easily acquired, it's not even fun to do them. Even the odd time where we get that, and most of the time it's by accident, we're just crossing over and we just have to shoot it before we get destroyed. We sit there and we're like, oh, okay, I guess that's, yeah, okay. Cool, we scored a goal, but we didn't really have to try, did we? And, I don't know. My stance has always been the same when it comes to glitches and stuff. If it's in the game, yeah, you're allowed to use it, but you can't abuse it. For the love of God, you can't just spend the entire game going for that same shot, and that's 90% of teams we face. They're always trying to take that same shot over and over again. It's okay if once in a blue moon you use that, but it's not if it's all you use, if it's what you use as a crutch to win games. That's not how you play. That is just simply put, you being lazy and not wanting to put any effort into a game that actually could require some skill, but because the game isn't coded properly, it doesn't do that. So that's the wrister. We'll look at the breakaway quickly, and here's how it is. The backhand forehand kind of works in real hockey. It really does. And at the end of the day, my stance on this is simple. If you're not playing good defense, then if you're giving up breakaways like that, well, then they deserve to go in. It's that simple. Especially if you are playing with at least one guy on defense human-wise. If it's just AI, then the AI is just stupid, and I'll get to that in a minute too. But if you have, especially if you have two human defenders, and you give up a breakaway because you're pushing in too far, or, you're getting a little too aggressive, you go for a big hit and you miss them. That's your fault. The breakaway I will not have a single problem with is because if you get that chance, of course you're going to try to do whatever you can to score. It's a breakaway. That has nothing to do. The wrister is something that you can do at any point, and for some reason it's so hard to block because the skating engine just doesn't allow you to take people off the puck. I've had so many goals scored on my team when I'm literally standing in front of the guy, hitting away, poke checking away, and it just doesn't register anything. That's frustrating. And even if I do get a piece of the puck, it only goes that tiny bit of an inch, so it stays on his stick anyway, and he still gets to roof it like that. That's not fair. If you're gonna make a defensive play, it should actually work. And when guys are being that obvious, it shouldn't be that difficult to take away. But because a lot of the time the game will not register your poke checks, will not register your body checks, and quite frankly the skating engine works in their favor, you can't do anything against it. Okay, I got rid of the glitch goals. Let's get on to anything else that is pissing me off, and there's quite a long list of it. Penalties are so inconsistent. Unbelievably inconsistent. Sometimes there's even a lack thereof penalties being called. There are so many occasions where guys will clearly be running across the ice to check you from behind into the boards, no call. There are times where you'll be in the middle of center ice, the puck's nowhere near you, the puck has never been anywhere near you, a guy always suddenly just comes over, bowls you over, no call, no interference, not at all, nothing. You'll spend an entire game, being tripped or being kicked over, and nothing will get called, and then the second you decide to take a perfect poke check when you're standing in front of the guy, you can see the stick go to the puck, but it just ends up hitting foot instead. And you get called. Penalties make no sense in this game, and I still have a major issue with people who decide at the end of every single play to run around the ice and just check people into the boards constantly, trying to get them injured. That should be a call. When the guy's not doing anything to challenge a hit after the play, that's roughing. It's not fucking hard to understand that call. The same thing goes when they're slashing you. If you did that once in the NHL, you'd be throwing the fucking box like that. How in God's name is there no coding at all after the whistle? It happens once in a million games that I see somebody take a call. And that's only because they've made 10 checks in that 10-second increment. So there's an absolute lack of penalties. It looks like the refs are being paid off with some unknown currency in the game because it's so inconsistent. It makes no sense half the time on some of the calls that are made. And there's really nothing you can do about that. You're basically left at the hands of a fucking computer-generated referee. And that doesn't work. It needs to be cut and dry. It either is a penalty or it isn't. You can't have a game where in one play you can bowl a guy down in the middle of center ice and get called for interference, and then 2 minutes later the same guy, the other team's guy does the exact same thing, and there's no call. That makes no sense. It doesn't work that way. There needs to be a double standard. You can't have it one way or the other. It needs to go for both sides. After that, we'll go to the contact engine. And I don't mean, the hitting engine. The hitting engine is great. When it works beautifully. What I mean by the contact engine is this new engine they put in where if you just randomly run into each other without any hit, action being taken, you both either falter, lose all momentum, or in some cases, guys will run at you full speed, not take a hit, but will run right into you, so you actually get knocked to a knee, you lose every bit of momentum you get, and quite frankly, that would be interference in a real game. But because it's a contact engine and not a hitting engine, the game will not register those contacts as anything but just incidental contact. That's not incidental when guys are intentionally running towards you, just to get you out of the play, because they know that because if they run into you fast enough, they'll hit you on your knees, you'll lose every bit of speed you had going into that play. Now you're behind the curve, and that especially works for defensemen, keeping you from getting back into your own zone when you lose the puck. Now it's a 3-on-2. Next thing you know, one-timer, fucking puck goes in the net. You can't do anything about that. There needs to be something fixed for the new game where that instant no contact, when it's blatantly obvious, when guys are running straight across the ice to you to do that, that needs to be interference. And I think most times it should be anyway, because you can't just walk into a guy, just kind of, gently shoulder him over in the corner and not expect to be called. You can't do that. Okay, next thing. The AI. This is one that everybody complains about, even when they're doing really, really well. The AI is so unreliable, and when everybody tells me, well, you should be playing 5s and 6s, fuck you. Not everybody has 6 people on at a time every single time they're online playing a game. It doesn't work that way. Sorry that not every club that people play on has 20 people who are just clamoring to play. Okay? I'm sorry, but a lot of our games are 3s and 4s because we have a small group of guys that we like hanging around. We don't need a 30-player team with, 11 guys online every night at any time of the day. It doesn't work that way for us. So we don't have that luxury of having to play with, full human rosters, so we don't have to worry about AI unreliability. The goaltenders are the biggest problem this year because on one side of the ice, you'll get a goaltender who is just fucking Spider-Man, who can just get anything. His stick is like God. It's like, a shot could be going into a wide open net, and he'll barely get that tip of the goalie stick out and touch it, and somehow it doesn't go in. While the other side's goalie, it'll be a shot just, basically just lightly shot from the blue line, a wrister, a fucking 12-year-old goalie could take, and whoop, goes right through the legs. Oh, that's a goal. It's like they're taking a Vesa Toskala from that Islanders game where he fucking let one in from the other side of the goddamn rink. Okay? You can't justify how goalies are in this game. They are so stupid. They are so overzealous on the puck. They constantly give up rebounds that make no sense whatsoever. They magnetize to the opposing player's stick, so it's way too easy for them to just take a quick shot. All of a sudden, goes right off his pad straight to another guy, so he has a wide open net to shoot at. That's so inconsistent and so unrealistic, it shouldn't be like that. Now, on the skaters, there's just as many problems. Most of the time, they're just frightened, like they have a goddamn phobia of hockey pucks, like they're allergic to rubber. So whenever the puck goes remotely near them, instead of going after the puck and keeping in the play, all of a sudden the puck will be over here, you'll see them come and they'll be like, go and turn around and go away. For some reason, for no reason. I've seen it happen where they go to take an icing and then just suddenly turn away from it, and, all of a sudden the opposing player gets to take a shot at it. They are constantly going offside. Constantly going offside. I've played Hut, and it kills you that every time you try to start a rush, the AI will just go that extra inch too far every time. You have to keep resetting just to get the puck inside the net. Half the time I find myself just having to dump the puck in because there's no other option. They take terrible penalties at times. It's like what human players will take advantage of sometimes, where you can hit a guy in the middle of the ice for no reason and it'll work. And then the AI will do that, and every time it gets called. You're constantly working with a man down because the AI just loves to just tip away the stick like that, just constantly shaking it like they're holding a Wii remote playing the sword play thing from Wii Sports Resort. And then when it comes to hitting, they're so overzealous. Half the time, though, they just straight up miss the guy. So when they do actually hit him, it just ends up being a penalty. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? You can't play a game when your AI is keeping you constantly a man short because for some reason they have no discipline whatsoever. And then when it gets even worse than that, when they actually are on the ice, you're calling for passes for them constantly, and there will be one guy on my team here, and then I'll be over here. The puck will go straight down the center between both of us. Nobody can get remotely close to pick that puck up. It ends up being a turnover. Half the time it ends up in the back of our net. They are so terrible at passing. And even when they do pass it straight to you, they never put any mustard on it. When you're trying to get a play going, if they throw it full speed, it's going way across the middle of the ice where nobody is. And if they pass it straight to you, it's going at the speed of fucking a snail. It's just, when they're trying to give you a legitimate pass. Half the time they can't even pass between each other, and we know how much they love, especially when it's two AI defensemen, to just pass it back and forth to each other. And even then they'll miss each other, which makes no sense, because it's... The AI have to be fixed so badly. I don't know what else to do about it. You can't do anything about it. They are so inconsistent, and you can't rely on them. And if you're like me, who don't get the opportunity to play 5s and 6s constantly, you're at their mercy, and you will always lose to them because they will never be on your side. They'll never play to your favor. They'll never play to your strengths, and they quite frankly will never play legit defense. They'll always stay away from the puck and just skirt away from players to let them get breakaways consistently, no matter what setting you set them to, how far back you tell them to go, how hard you try to get them to attack the puck. It just will not work. The ice tilt, that's a name for it. Some people also call it momentum. Some people will just call it late game bullshit, whatever else comes in there. But ice tilt, quite frankly, we know it has to exist because there is no way that 90% of the games that are played, there are always late game goals that get scored from ridiculous angles with ridiculous bounces with ridiculous AI inconsistency that just mixes together so well. I've already talked about the AI, so I won't go too far into that, but quite frankly, it looks so obvious, especially in Ultimate Team, and even in the odd games of offline I've played, where I've played offline, be a GM, playing the actual games or franchise, whatever you want to call it, and I'll have shut them out. They'll only have 9 shots the whole game. I'll have had like 40, only managed to get 1 in the net somehow, because again, Superman goalie, and with 30 seconds left, I'll go to take the puck away, take a pass. Even though I aimed it straight at a guy, it'll go the other direction, hit on an AI opposing player, he'll take a random shot, and one of two things will happen. Either just go in because somehow my goalie just decided after, playing a nice game so far that he'll just turn into a Timbit goaltender and just fall over and just let the puck fly in, or he'll make the save, but it'll magnetize over to another opposing player's stick who's standing, perfectly in that great position to shoot an open goal. And then you get fucked. Now you're in overtime, and most of the time you'll end up losing that too. Or if you do win, you'll have to work your ass off to get to it. Ice tilt is so obvious. I don't care if some people's opinions say, oh, come on, that's just a thing that people say when they're losing. No, it always happens to us when we're winning. We never have, actually that's not true. Either two things will happen to us when we lose, and we lose to the point of it being ice tilt-like. It'll either be like the entire game has just been unbelievable bounces that never go in our favor, or it'll be we'll just completely dominate a team for 58 minutes, and in that last 2 minutes, all of a sudden, every bounce just magnetize. Like, we can't poke a puck free for our luck. We can't touch it at all, and then every shot just has that perfect rebound that keeps going to opposing players' sticks, like the rubber is actually turning into a magnet and the sticks are made of steel. It exists, and I will argue that to no end because there are so many obvious pieces of evidence that happen in late game that shows it. Speaking of the bounces, I don't understand some of the really strange ones that happen. There are so many goals that are scored by just bouncing off a goalie's pad, even though he clearly got a good piece of it, and it just goes tilting up in the air and slowly falls into the net. So many times when you poke check a puck straight in front of you, instead of going straight back, for some reason, when you hit a puck, instead of doing that, you'll do this. Because that makes sense. Pucks go backwards when you throw I don't know. I don't know my physics very well, but I'm pretty sure if you hit something forward, it'll go forward, or at the very least skirt to the side, depending on which part of the puck you hit it on. It should never do that. The puck should never come backwards. It makes no sense. Pucks will have weird deflections off of the board sometimes. Sometimes they'll take weird hops off other players. And again, it comes back to that whole idea that a lot of the time it feels like the puck is magnetized. So that is a huge thing, and that's where it goes back to the ice tilt, where it seems like for teams that need to get back in the game, except us, because that never happens to us when we're down, the puck just never leaves the stick. Even when they're hit, the puck still glides along with them, even though they're not touching it, so the puck should be staying in place, or at the very least not just moving directly towards where his stick's going, it gives you a very disadvantage because you can't do anything to it because the puck's clearly not meant to go to your stick. It's like it's trying to simulate that, okay, we need to get these guys back in the game, so let's try to give them every possible opportunity to do that. No, this isn't a fucking real game. This is a simulation. It shouldn't be okay, we need to let them get back in this game. This game should be completely based on who is the better team, and the better team should be winning. If they lose because of bad luck, it's a one-off thing. It shouldn't be an every other game kind of deal, okay? Okay. The last two things I'm going to talk about are fighting and hitting that come with gameplay. Being forced to fight because you make a clean hit is bullshit. I don't like fighting because I don't like sitting on the bench for 5 minutes in an online game. Why would I want to do that? I want to win. Why would I want to sit for 5 minutes? It's why I don't get the people who constantly fight in EA SHL games. It makes no sense to me. Why do you want to get off the ice? You want to play, don't you? That's why you bought a game, to play it. Why are you playing a game and deciding, I need to take a 5-minute break because I don't feel like playing this game? If you don't want to play the game, get the fuck off the game. I don't understand this fighting mechanic. I understand that if a guy shoots the puck at the net after the whistle, yeah, you better kick his ass. But just because a guy makes a clean hit, if he hits a guy from behind, then yeah, you better get called for yourself. But if you just, bowl over a guy because he had his head down, that's nobody's fault, and you shouldn't be forced to fight because some douchebag on the other team decides, oh, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, so fighting! That shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. It's not fair to people who are trying to play the game legitimately, trying to play good defense, and they get punished just because they made a good hit. And then when it comes to hitting, I don't know what it is, but when you have teams that all 3, 4, 5, whatever guys are solely focused on pumping up their checking, pumping up their strength and aggressiveness and everything else, and not doing anything but running around the ice taking hits all game long, I don't want to say that this happens every time, but it feels like there's a clear advantage given to teams that do that. There are you can argue that again, that the aggressiveness will drop stats, it'll intimidate players, but at the end of the day, guys are getting those good bounces just because they're hitting. People are getting clear, distinct advantages in some games that just because they've taken 20 more hits than the other team, even though the other team has 20 shots more than they do, they're getting the better shots because the goalie all of a sudden is intimidated because he's watching his other guys get destroyed. That makes no sense. The goalie has no part in that. So there's no reason that bounces should be going in their favor. There's no reason that our goaltender should be playing like shit just because a guy's making a couple extra hits. It shouldn't be working that way. And having an advantage just because you're playing like a frat boy would, just running around just smacking people, no, that's not right. An advantage, there are still teams that, play tough, but skilled teams can easily get deke around them. And when for some reason there are teams that you can't get by because there's 3 guys constantly running at you, it doesn't work. And I know there's ways around it, but when there are games when for some reason you can't find one, it's frustrating as hell, and there needs to be something looked at, because I do believe that in a way it might not be huge, but there seems like there is an advantage to just playing a soul hitting kind of game. Okay, now EASHL I'll take a quick shot at. The only major thing I have with it now, because I do like the idea of these seasons and having more playoffs, so instead of waiting a month all the time, you get a chance to go for a trophy constantly. I think there's still a terrible lack of customization. I cannot believe that we are so many years into this franchise now, and we still only have the base NHL logos and whatever shitty logos they make up. I can't understand how they can't get the rights, and I'm assuming that's the problem. Even though they have the rights to the logos, how is it that we can't take all the logos from the AHL or the CHL teams or even the Europe leagues? How is it that we can't use them on custom jerseys and customize the look of them? That's laziness. I can't see that has anything to do with right issues, because if you have the jerseys in the game and the logos in the game, you must have the rights to all of them. So why can't you put them in the custom jerseys section so we can use them? Because not all of us want to have a NHL logo on our team or just the really shitty EA logos. Maybe we're big fans of the Toronto Marlies. Maybe we're big fans, say I have a buddy of mine who's a big Red Deer Rebels fan. Why can't you do something like that? Also, with customizations, why can't we just name our AI players instead of having stupid names all the time? I think it'd be great if you're having a themed team, you could have your AI, match things. Or maybe if you're just like, right now our team's the Vancouver Canucks, why can't we name the forwards and defensemen and even the goalie on our team, after already existing players? Why can't we do that? That would be cool. It would make the team our own. And I'm having a little burp problem now. Yeah, but it takes away the creativity that we get with it because our names are always so good, but we can't make the AI. All of a sudden, it's like, this guy on our team next to some, like, whatever, Jerry Brodeur, because they just put two random names next to each other. It makes no sense. And last but not least, why do we still have the very few, 20, 25 color presets for each, round, and not just a straight-up color wheel? That would make so much more sense, just being able to have, here is every single possible color you can have. You can shade them however you need to so it matches. Because most of the time, it's so hard to find a perfect matching color to each other because you don't have enough shades to work with to have it blend in so smoothly. So half the time, the jerseys look very, very strange. They look very pixelated. They look very, they look just slightly off. I'm very, very picky with my colors, so I really like things to run smoothly, and it's very, very difficult to do that right now. So I wish they would have that so that you have just the full amount of color possibility to go with. Now we'll move on to HUT, which is a big pet peeve for mine too, and I've completely just gave up on it when I left the game initially a couple months ago, because I'll say it right now, and I don't even care if this is taken the wrong way. Hockey Ultimate Team, for 90% of people that play it, is a cash scam. It's an absolute scam. Because pucks are impossible to acquire. Just to get a goal pack, you have to play 10 plus games to acquire enough pucks to get a goal pack. So you're almost forced to have to spend a little money on packs. And the fact that what comes in these packs are such an unbelievable joke. And they lie to you on what they say on there. Yes, they do not technically, because they say, like my best example, whenever they say guaranteed 2 85 plus players, they will always be 85 overall players that shouldn't even be in the low 80s. Robin Regeer, I'm sorry, but because the only reason they give him an 85 is because they say, well, 91 checking's a big thing, guys. Robin Regeer wouldn't be 80 overall at this point in his career. Why is he an 85? He's only there for the specific reason of being there to keep you from getting good rares in your goddamn packs. And which is even more a joke is the specialty packs, which you pay even more for and you get even less in. 90% of rares are always contracts and fucking boost cards, which, because duration is in effect now, are useless. Duration, I still have to say, is the dumbest mechanic they've put in. It was great when it initially came out because... Or sorry, not duration. I mean, the boosts were great because you could take a rookie guy like Nazem Kadri when he was drafted, put all these boosts on him, get him up to an 89 permanently. Yes, you'd have to pay more for his contract now, but now you had a star. It was like you were raising one. But now, rookie cards are useless. They have no value because unless... And there's no, I've never seen it, and I'm assuming they don't exist, is a permanent duration card. You can't make these guys good long enough. If you're playing HUT religiously, and you're playing hundreds and hundreds of games, duration cards do nothing to you because you're still going to play to the point that your guys are going to be useless again, and it makes 80% of the entire player set useless. Because the second you throw an NHL guy in there, the rookie guy from the AHL has no use to you. So why in God's name did you guys put duration cards on? Oh wait, I know why. So we'll pay more for more packs so we get more contract cards to keep them going, so we get more boost cards so we can put them back up, so we can hope for duration cards. The only thing permanent are the captaincy cards, and that's ridiculous. There needs to be a guarantee. There needs to be a pack that is available at all times on the store that will say guaranteed first line player. And I mean first line as guys who are on the first line in real hockey. I'm talking the Zetterbergs, the Datsuks, the Crosbys, the Malkins. I don't care if they're really expensive, because at least if you buy those, you're guaranteed a player that you will want to play on your lines. I don't care if it fucks up the economy. It's stupid how the economy, like, to get a half-decent player, you have to pay over 100,000 pucks. Who has 100,000 pucks that isn't playing the game religiously? Guys like me don't get that opportunity because we don't spend every waking moment in that mode. So when we're trying to put together a half-decent team and collect cards, we can't do that because it'll cost us $10,000 to buy enough packs that we might, just maybe, will get one Crosby. And that's bullshit. And even when you do get them, even when you do get great players, they're still sloppy, they're still slow, and they're still inconsistent. They're completely incompetent when you mix them with the AI. The game, even the mode itself, playing online, feels so sloppy, it feels so slow, there's nothing you can do about it. And then even if you have a great goalie, they're so mind-blowingly inconsistent. You're better off just getting a junior goalie, because it doesn't seem like it matters who you put in. They still allow stupid goals, thanks to Ice Tilt, because it exists. So it doesn't matter whether you have Roberto Luongo or some guy from the OHL in there. It doesn't seem to matter very much. So it doesn't seem like there's much you can do. So we're nearing the end here. It's been 30 minutes. I've given out the worst things, so I'm just going to go over just a couple little things that are left, and it pretty much just has to do with the presentation and, you know, the way that things are shown to you. The towels for playoffs are still distracting at the back end. Just have it so that the audience and the crowd on the defensive zone don't throw the towels out, because you can't see behind the glass. You can't see behind the net where the puck is because they're too busy. They're in the way. You can't do that. That's unacceptable. I don't know how they haven't noticed that. That's so ridiculous. I know it's cool to see the towels being thrown, but they don't do that during playoffs. They don't do it during play. They sit down and watch the game. When it's on the face-offs, yeah, they do that. But they shouldn't be getting in your way of being able to see the puck, because you can't see it behind the towels. I think we need new announcers. I think Gary Thorne's overstayed his welcome at this point. I think he's been around since 2007, I think, now. I mean, it sounds like, if anything, he's recording an hour's extra, like not even an hour's extra of dialogue every year. Like, you're hearing the same things constantly. I mean, it seems like the only thing they add with him is just adding more lines about this specific player. It doesn't seem like they add anything new to the mix. We need new guys. I miss the days of Jim Houston. I'm so happy for him that he's doing really well for CBC now, because he's such a great announcer. I think you guys need to look at somebody else. Maybe look at some guys from NBC or something like that. But right now, I've lost my care in the world for Gary Thorne. And even then, they need to, they've set up production for games like Madden and NBA. Like, you see how NBA 2K14 has the stuff on the side now? How come we aren't at the point now where we have that guy between the benches now? We don't have that extra voice now. Like, that's something that needs to be put in. That would be really nice. The final thing I'm going to say, and it's really simple. Why isn't every individual stat, whether it's balance, whether it's durability, offensive awareness, whatever it is, why isn't there an individual description in-game of them? And even, outside on the internet, it's still not properly explained. People are still unsure what everything does, and sometimes there are stats that are even useless. Like, I find most of the time, balance doesn't mean anything, discipline doesn't change anything for me, and 90% of the time, passing doesn't seem like it affects anything. Because I pass fine normally. So, it needs to... and I don't understand why it isn't like that in game, because when you select your stick curves or your skate edges, in terms of how many inches the skate blade is, they will explain to you through an audio tip what they do. Why isn't there something like that for all the attributes, so you know specifically what you're supposed to? It may not always actually do that, because as I just said, some of the stats seem clearly useless because they don't actually do anything, at least in my opinion. But why isn't there anything in-game that says, okay, defensive awareness, this will allow you to, take away the passing lanes better, so you'll intercept passes better, you might get a better piece of the puck when it's loose, or stuff like that. Or say offensive awareness, you'll have a better chance of deflecting shots, or, you'll have a better chance of it's like, it's mixing with your accuracy for your shots, so they find the net better. Like, why isn't that there in-game? And it should be, because if everything else is already having audio tips to it, the most important things to us that we constantly play with because we don't know what to do with them. Why isn't there proper explanations in the game? So that's about everything I have. I'm sure there'd be more that comes to the top of my head, but I've already done 30 minutes, and I think that's pretty much gotten the gist of just how frustrating this game is. I'm going to openly say this here, and I probably should have said this at the beginning. I'm not the greatest player. I will openly admit that. I'm not the greatest player of this game. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I've said that it can actually be easily counterable if I play the game enough to figure it out. But for someone like me who doesn't play it all day, every day, because I know people who have already played 1,000+ games in it, which is unbelievable. It's the same people that when you finish a month of Call of Duty, you look at the stats and say somebody's played literally for 16 days in a 30-month period. That's unbelievable. I don't have respect for people who say, well, I've been playing, this game like 10, 20 games a day, and I know how to do this. Well, good for you, but you've had the chance to have so many games that it's easy for you to figure out. For someone like me who only comes to it maybe for a couple games a day, if anything, and even then, I'll have the odd day off that I don't play it. It should be accessible for everyone, and it shouldn't be such a cut and dry, you do this, and it gets you exactly what you want. And that's what I mean by the glitch shots, by people who just spend 90% of the game just openly checking you for no reason. It's why for a guy like me who doesn't play the game forever that it's not fair that I can't do very well on HUT because even when I do spend the odd money on packs, I don't get anything back for it. It tells me that every year all EA Sports does, and because they don't even have a direct way of mailing them without just going through customer support, you can't send them a direct message to voice your opinion. You can't. And half the time the one guy I try constantly to tweet and get an answer from is Sean Ramjack Singh, Rammer34. He'll never answer because he doesn't want to answer anything that isn't positive. So there's nothing you can do about it. The only thing we can do is just not buy the game. But the problem with me is I'm such a big hockey fan, and there's no other option for me to go for. If 2K was running a hockey game next year, I'd buy that one in a heartbeat because I'm sick and tired of EA Sports' bullshit. But because I'm such a massive hockey fan, I have to. I shouldn't say I have to, but it's something that I can't help but want to, okay? So, for someone like me who's going to be a much more casual player, the game needs to be opened a little bit more so that guys like me can at least try to have a good time. Because most games we play just ends up being walking frustration because people glitch consistently, the AI is terrible, the actual new engines actually kind of make the game a little bit tougher to play in for some people who don't, spend their days in the system. And I'm going to finish with one simple comment. And it has to do with the glitch goals once again because that's always been the biggest issue with the NHL franchise. Like I said, it's okay if you do it once or twice. If you spend the entire game doing it, that's unacceptable. And, I have to say that the only way this is going to be fixed is if people come together and stop. But because you have those people who feel like it's their lifelong dream to be the best on a fictional leaderboard instead of just playing a game and having fun with it, I don't think there's anything I can do to sway you from not taking glitch shots, but look at it this way. What do you think would happen to you in a real hockey game if you did the same shot over and over again? There'd be a guy waiting for you. The problem with NHL 14 right now is that even if we do that exact thing and stand in that same spot and wait for you, they'll somehow find a way to dance around and score otherwise. You bought a game for the purpose of having fun. If you need to cheat, essentially, to have some fun with it, then there's a problem with the game. If you need to cheat to have a good time, you need to stop playing that game because clearly you're not having fun with what the game is normally. That's why I took away from it. That's why I stopped playing it for a couple months because, quite frankly, I was just not having any fun. So thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you.